Hello and welcome to another video. So in today's video I would like to talk about why modular synth isn't just a hobby. So what does that mean? Modular synth is not just a hobby. What is a hobby? Well, before we get into it, I would just like to invite you to subscribe if you have not already done so. I know there are a lot of people watching these videos that are not subscribed, so it is really beneficial and helpful for me to see people subscribing, so I know that people are enjoying the content. Perhaps you're new here, in which case thank you for coming along, and maybe once you've watched this video you might also consider subscribing as well. Anyway, let's get going, shall we? So, why modular synth isn't just a hobby? Well, first of all, what does the word hobby mean? What does it mean for something to be a hobby? Well, I just looked this up and I can't remember what it said, so I'm going to have to do it again. Hobby. A hobby is a regular activity pursued for enjoyment during leisure time. It can encompass a wide range of interests, from collecting items to engaging in creative pursuits or sports. So I guess the important parts there are a regular activity pursued for enjoyment during leisure time. Does anybody out there have leisure time? I don't get any leisure time. No, sir. But apparently you need leisure time because that's when you pursue hobbies. So, is modular synth a hobby? Well, I guess, the word hobby kind of suggests something that we don't necessarily take that seriously. That's okay. We don't have to take things seriously all the time. And it's probably something that, sometimes you might take the thing seriously, but maybe other people outside, family, friends, whatever, looking in might not see it as something that needs to be taken that seriously. It's a hobby. It's not that important. Maybe sometimes things that start out as a hobby initially might eventually become something that is, quite important to your life and to your way of life and so on. And, maybe eventually might even become an obsession. I'm pretty sure modular synth, it's very easy for modular synth to become an obsession if you have enough money. As I suppose many musical practices might. So, and I don't sort of want to suggest that have any kind of elitism or whatever, that, modular synth is better, so it's not a hobby or anything like that. But I'm thinking more along how, once you get involved in a thing, there can be a certain amount of meaning to it, and recognizing that meaning, maybe even sort of ritual or creative identity which is tied up within that practice. I know for myself that over the years that has been something quite important to me. That I started as a teenager playing guitar, but after a number of years, I guess being a guitarist became part of my identity, more so than other things, and there's lots of things which can tie in to create our identity and the way that we view ourselves within the world. But for a while my identity was very much tied up in being a guitarist, and then being a guitar teacher and a music teacher, and now being a modular synth artist, I suppose. And maybe there's a certain level of that which feeds into ego as well, which isn't necessarily always a good thing. But it can be important to recognize these things, and to recognize how we view ourselves and the importance of that, especially, when other people might not share that view. And I think, that's the point. When you start viewing yourself as somebody that does a thing like, being a musician or a guitarist or a modular synth person or whatever, that's when the thing has moved from being a hobby to being something that is a little deeper than a hobby, or more important to yourself. So I guess, you know, that's kind of the idea that I'm getting at here, is that, you know, we can become wrapped up in this thing, and, you know, for us it is more than just a hobby. It becomes kind of like a way of life, I guess. And maybe even, you know, it will change you as a person. So yeah, and I think there are quite a few ways that modular synth can change you. You know, I think it can change the way that you listen. You know, I know definitely that before I got into modular synth, modular synth practice, I guess, I didn't listen to any music that was like that, or, you know, that kind of, how should we say, sort of experimental type electronic music, or whatever, you know. And a lot of the music that I encountered early on, I didn't really understand, and I didn't maybe even think that it was music. But slowly over time, as I've become exposed to these things and learnt more about them and start to understand them more, you start to appreciate things more, and so you do listen to things differently, and you hear things differently. And, you know, even if it is just walking down the street and hearing the sound of some, I don't know, air conditioning machinery somewhere or something, and think, oh, that's quite a pleasant, interesting sound. You know, you might hear sounds within the natural world differently, or notice them more. I know that that's definitely something. You know, maybe, I don't know, the rhythm of a train going through, if you're standing on a platform, or the sound of traffic moving by, the sound of wind through trees. You hear the world differently because you've been exposed to more abstract types of music and sounds than before. So, you know, I think it kind of tunes your ears into the world in a way that's, you know, most people are not going to be aware of. Perhaps even it might... Oh, a dog has entered. A dog has entered. A dog has entered. Now, the dog has been in some of my videos before, and he's probably going to lie down in a minute. He's probably going to knock the camera. I hear a rumble of thunder. He doesn't like thunder. He doesn't like storms, and that's probably why he's in here, because he's come seeking shelter. We shall carry on. Forgot where I got to. Ooh, did you hear that? I don't know whether it would pick up. That was some nice thunder. I think we're in for a storm. After some time of working with modular, I think it starts to change how you think about things, or rewire the way that you think about things, because you can start to see things in terms of systems and relationships and emergence, rather than fixed outcomes. And, you know, perhaps it sort of teaches you a certain level of patience and intuition, or to, you know, to allow yourself to follow intuition. Intrinsically, there's a lot of experimentation required in modular, and doing things in an iterative way. And, you know, I know that sort of that way of thinking is definitely kind of spilled out into other areas of you know, my life and how I function, even, you know, even when it comes to sort of things that I do at work, maybe slightly differently. I also think it kind of can shape your daily life and your values to a certain extent as well. especially if you are engaging regularly with modular, it can become kind of like a ritual. And I know that's definitely something that I experienced when I was doing that 30-day challenge. Every single day, there was a point where everything was done for the day, and instead of going downstairs and putting the TV on or whatever, I came into my studio and I started patching, and as that sort of went on, although it was difficult at the time because I was often late at night and I was tired, but it sort of created this space for reflection and I over time I sort of gained a deeper connection with what I was doing, and it did become very sort of meditative and almost sort of, as I say, ritualistic in a way. I also think it kind of teaches you to trust the process more, and trust the process over perfection. So perfection is often the enemy of getting things done, and definitely something that can eat away at you mentally. And perfection is something that we can't really embrace when it comes to modular synthesis. And so letting go of that need for perfection is, again, it's something that kind of spills over into the rest of your life. And I know that is definitely the case, where there are things, especially, again, I'm talking about things I might do at work, where in the past I might have tried to get something perfect before presenting it to people, whereas now I probably will just accept when things are done a little bit more and not worry about that level of perfectionism. I think that modular can also help you to come to peace with uncertainty and letting go of control. And this is something which, I know it can be very difficult at times to, and I know that this is definitely something that I have struggled with, especially when working with other people. Sometimes is letting go of control of a situation, or letting go of control around a task or something. And, ultimately that comes from the uncertainty that if somebody else is going to do something, you don't know how it's going to turn out. But modular kind of teaches you that, because you're not always going to be in control of what happens, and uncertainty is kind of like, the lifeblood or the bread and butter or whatever of modular. And in fact, it's something to be praised and sought out. It makes the patches the most interesting when there's that level of uncertainty. And so, we kind of get that from modular, which maybe we don't from other musical practices. And that, again, is something that in a chaotic life and a chaotic world can be quite valuable for us. And I think sometimes it's very easy for outsiders to see what we're doing and see it as an obsession with gear, like a gas thing. And I know that is there, and there's definitely a few modules that I've seen recently that have come out, and I think, I'd like to have those if only I had some spare cash. But I do think, after a certain time, that becomes secondary. And for many people, once you've got your initial setup and you know what you're doing, the gas kind of goes away a little bit, and it becomes more about honing your craft, and it becomes more about discovery and self-expression and what you can do with what you've got, rather than just continually having to collect together more and more and more modules. And I think I had a similar experience when I played guitar. Once I reached a certain level, I wasn't that interested in having a new guitar or having new equipment or new pedals or whatever, because what became more interesting or more important was me and how I could work more creatively with what I've got, or how I could develop myself as a musician. And those external things become less of an interest. And over time, that kind of grounds you, and and it helps you to grow in the same way as like meditation or martial arts or sports or journaling or whatever, all of these practices, ultimately the work that you're doing is work within yourself and understanding yourself, and developing yourself through whatever medium it may be. In this case, it is the medium of modular synth. And ultimately, there is, I guess there's kind of like an emotional reality to this. You've probably spent countless hours with your modular system, working in sometimes what might seem, working in silence if you've got headphones on, adjusting things, adjusting controls, patching cables, whatever, completely lost in the flow of what you're doing. And to the outsider, this can seem like a waste of time, and and again, this is where the sort of hobby element comes in. But for you as the practitioner, these moments are not wasted. This time is not wasted. This time is sacred. It's creative time. As I say, if you get into this kind of meditative state, it's like spiritual time as well. And the whole time that you're doing this, you are building something. You're building your own voice. You're building your own creative process and your own methods and your own way of thinking and your own kind of like philosophy of sound. And it's something which, ultimately it's the long game. You're all of these things, you're not going to get results immediately or in 2 weeks or in a month or whatever, but it's going to take years. It's a lifetime of dedication, to achieve something which maybe you will be the only person who appreciates it. But that's okay. That is fine. And that's why I think that modular synth is not just a hobby. It can be a hobby. Anything can be a hobby, really, but it can be a way of life. And I think for many people, it is a way of life. And so when people call it a hobby or, don't take it seriously, that ultimately what they're saying is that it's not a serious thing and it's not worth time. But that just really is a lack of understanding. And ultimately it's down to you and yourself and how you engage with it and what you get from it. And really anything that changes how you interact or perceive the world or connect with the world or even connect with yourself on a deep level, I don't think we can call that a hobby. I think we need to call it something else, something different. And it's good to remember that you're not, as I say, you're not wasting time, but you're building something, and maybe ultimately, that thing that you're building is yourself. Maybe. So I think that probably brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Apologies for the interruptions from the dog. He does get a little bit scared though when there's a storm, and yeah, we have to look after him. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit the subscribe button and the like button, and let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Is modular synth just a hobby, or is it a way of life? Thank you. See you next time. Cheerio. And you might start asking questions differently. So, oh my God, Bowie, either just come in and stay in. Bowie, come here, Bear. Bowie, I don't mind you being in the video, but we can't have this constant back and forth. Come here. Come here. Right, the dog's back again. So I think the last thing that I was saying was, look, he's going to go out now. I'm trying to talk, and he's gonna let himself out. You're a pain in the arse, dog. Come here, Bowie. What was the last thing I was saying? Right, let's try again. I talked about listening, in that sort of tinkering mode, trying things out and failing and then trying them again. Bowie! Oh, this dog is a pain in the arse. Right, I'm going to have to let him out now. Come here. Right, don't knock the camera. Oh. It's difficult to make a video when there's a dog here. Very difficult. Baby. Baby. Come here. Baby. Let's see if we can do this whole little section again. It's possible that modular also kind of changes the way that you think about things. If you spend a lot of time with your modular and you start thinking in terms of systems and... Oh my God! Let's try again, shall we? If you spend enough time with modular, then it may even change the way that you think about things and the way that you sort of view, I don't know. It's totally thrown me off now, the dog has. If you spend enough time working with modular, then it may even change the way that you start to think about things, because you start to think, I guess, in like systems and relationships, and that